So, man, are you you're in Oregon or Washington? I can't remember which.
Oregon. I'm about an
Oregon,
hour outside of Portland.
hour outside of Portland. How are you doing?
Not actually too bad. Things are obviously a little bit crazy. We've got the kids home from school, but I already work from home, and we were able to set Megan up. She works at a company in town, but she's got a really good work from home setup right now, and so.
Awesome.
Yeah, the only thing we really have to deal with is, basically homeschooling the kids until the end of the school year, which makes things exciting, but it's not too bad.
Matt, we are doing the same with ours, and it's difficult. The tele education that we're doing is it's not what you thought. Obviously, you fantasize about the future. You have the internet. You think you could put a teacher in front of a camera and have the same kind of effect happen. But really, it's not like that. There's this person that seems awkward and out of place. It doesn't know what they're doing.
Yep.
They're not talking into the microphone. The freaking connection is so bad.
Yeah.
Like, come on, people. And I'm embarrassed, honestly, to tell you the truth, because I thought for sure we were already there.
Yeah.
We're already at the point we could have teleeducation, or not teleeducation, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
Over the internet. I mean, I'm totally disappointed. But yeah, man, this caught us all by surprise. What a situation.
Yeah, it's wild. It's one of those things where kind of like a lot of world events, I don't think that it's going to too badly negatively affect me and my family personally, but it just sucks to see what's going on out there. And we keep hearing about people either who we know personally or who we've sort of like followed for a while online who are like losing people or like are being hit way harder than we're being right now, and it sucks. It makes the world kind of a scary place.
I'm in New York City. I'm
Oh
on
geez.
East First Street. I'm between
Wow.
First and Second Avenue. I'm looking outside my window. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. There's a building right across the street from my apartment that has $20 million condos in it. But then right next to it is a soup kitchen
Wow.
where all of the homeless in the entire world come and get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I
Jesus.
walk my dog, and it's like just a sea of people that are out there on the street or whatever the hell they're doing. You know what I mean? They're not living in a house. They don't have an apartment. They don't come down there and sit their sack breakfast because they want to.
Right.
I mean, these people are hurting, and they're
Yeah.
slowly, dwindling. The numbers aren't as high, or maybe
Yeah.
it's getting higher. I mean, I can't even tell, man. It's a nightmare. It's like a zombie apocalypse, but these are people that are living,
Yeah.
but slowly dying. I mean, they're if this lasts any longer,
Yeah.
I've heard it's plateau. I heard there's a plateau, so we're in it potentially.
Woof. It's yeah. I mean, it's so hard to see what's happening. I'm trying to take hope in seeing the cool things people are doing because there are so many
Yeah,
people pulling together. That's pretty
mhm.
great.
It
Um,
is honestly.
I watch
Remote
a yeah,
pulling together too over Zoom or whatnot.
exactly. And I watch these YouTubers called the Vlog Brothers, Hank and John Green, and Hank started a podcast that's basically he called it coronavirus or COVID-19 sucks, people don't. And
Huh.
he points out like this is the largest collective action humanity has ever taken.
Tell me
Uh,
about it,
You
man.
know?
Is it 25% or is it 50% of the world's population in quarantine right now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably 50% if that number
50%
hasn't increased yet.
increased. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, I don't know what to expect. I mean, you have some people that whisper, hey, things are going to get a lot worse. And then you have other people that say, you know what, this might be the social revolution that we're looking for. The
Right.
coronavirus might turn over the economy in terms of better for the worker,
Right.
maybe.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where it's impossible to know for sure, but uh, I think that it's more helpful to be hopeful than to be, to be realistic. Don't be all Pollyanna about it or naive, but like to hold a cautious hope that things are going to look better on the other side of this.
Yeah. I mean, I keep hearing the term UBI. I mean, I mentioned a lot.
Uh,
I think it,
it boy, it'd just be real great. Be real great.
it'd be great for a lot of people, but it can't just be us, though. It has to be the entire world. It
Yeah.
has to be every single human being somehow. And I don't think that's humanly, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Pope says we need UBI. People just aren't able to survive.
Right.
I hate the fact that I said this also before, the Indians have contracts they sign that basically they sign themselves into slavery
Right.
for pennies or whatever. It's like, man, we're doing this to ourselves, people. You realize that, right? This is humanity. It's all we got.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insane. It's, uh, oh, humanity.
So, I mean, what are you
So,
doing to cope besides? I mean, are you working on projects or are you
yeah.
having a hard time motivating?
No, I'm definitely working. I haven't had a hard time motivating. In fact, this is a weird thing. Since my family's been home, I one thing that I track in terms of my like how I'm measuring, how well I'm doing is just straight up number of hours in the chair working. And since we've started social, like enforced isolating, whatever, it's not quite quarantine because quarantine is when you're already sick. I need a better term for it because socially isolating doesn't really work for me either because
It's
we're not.
socially distancing, isn't it? I mean, that's basically what people are doing is socially distancing. They're just
Yeah.
keeping 6 feet away from each other. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of complaining that it's pointless, but it's not. I mean, that's what.
Oh, it's not pointless at all.
There's a lot of good. I think a lot of good is happening. Just so many people have died. 10,000 in New York.
Exactly.
I
And we
can't look at
gotta
that
keep
number
that number
anymore
down.
and go, yeah, it's already up there.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They say, what did they say? That there's still like 900 cases a day happening. It's just not getting higher.
And then there's the whole fact where there's definitely underreporting because when you go to the official numbers, the CDC and WHO and everything like that, they're only reporting the numbers of confirmed cases. And there's a lot of people who can't get tested because there's not enough tests. So we know that the numbers are actually higher than they are, which just sucks. Like that. What do you do with that? Oh, they're higher. We don't know how much higher because we don't have tests. Haha. It's like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
And they can't test dead people. They won't test dead people either. What they're
Right.
doing is just saying they have more dead people.
Right.
Like this person died of a heart attack, but he really shouldn't have died of a heart attack.
Exactly.
He's probably had COVID-19.
Yeah.
I think my entire family had it
Oh my
at one
gosh.
point this year. Yeah, we just got wiped out with like a 2-day cold. Hit our respiratory system. I had just the worst cough ever, the worst fever, chills. I thought I was dying.
Oh my god.
And then I got better, but the fever never went away. Like
Wow.
the fever just lingered like 99 degrees. You know
That's
what I mean?
crazy.
I just couldn't get rid of that fever. I was like, oh my God, why is this fever here? And I felt so hot like all the time. My face just felt scorched.
Oh my god. Well, the
I didn't get tested. You know what I mean? Nobody said, hey, yo, dude, come here over and let's see what's going on with you. Nobody cared that I was sick or my family was sick.
And so much of the time that's the case. You call your doctor and you're like, hey, I have these symptoms, and they're like, okay, well, listen, like, can you not like basically is this a medical emergency? Because if not, don't come here. Stay home.
Had to cancel appointments. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll only teleconference with you.
Right. We had
That's what I
two of the
would do.
kids. We have 3 kids, and 2 of them have had coughs in the last 2 weeks, and they're not that bad. But when that starts up, you're just like, oh God, is
My
this it?
daughter coughed last week. She was just, I don't know what she was doing. She was pretending, I think. I was like, sweetheart, why are you coughing? She's like, ha, ha, ha. And then she'd cough again. Ha, ha, ha. I was like, it's not funny. Please stop doing that.
Not a joke.
It's not a joke. I don't know, man. It's not cool. You think about this has happened in the past. It hasn't happened in a really long time. Spanish
Right.
flu, I think, right? I mean, we haven't really talked about pandemics since that.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a long while. I mean, it's and never, the the world's interconnectivity is always increasing. So we are so much more connected now than we were the last time this happened. But we also have better methods of communicating and disseminating information about it, but we also have so much more misinformation and outright liars and scam artists out there. So
Yeah,
it's
that's what I was going to add. Is it
Yeah.
seems like people are profiting off of it.
yeah, and it's this huge thing for anybody who's running an independent business or indie authors or small people who are trying to make a living. On one side, there's people who are like, should I run an ad for my books that basically says, hey, if you're stuck at home and you need something to read, here's
Sure.
some books, or is that profiting off of the thing? And then you see
Yeah.
ads from people who are absolutely blatantly,
Wait,
you know,
anyway.
right, just like totally trying to profit and being totally opportunistic, and that feels super skeezy. And then you have a bunch of authors who have been writing dystopian, post-apocalyptic, viral post-apocalyptic sci-fi for years, and they've been running the exact same ads, and all of a sudden Facebook is coming in and being like, hey, no, you
Oh,
can't advertise these.
cancel culture, right? That's that horrible thing
Yeah,
that
you
social
can't
media
advertise
offers.
these, right, exactly, to try and make money. And they're like, I've been running this exact same ad for 6 months. I'm not. This isn't me trying to jump on a bandwagon.
But
So
I don't think you probably run into that situation, right? I mean,
I
basically,
don't.
you write high fantasy, right? Is it
Yeah,
high fantasy? Yeah,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
pretty
My
safe with that.
yeah, my only, like my whole communication in all this is just, hey, it sucks. If this helps you get away from it, I'm very
Here,
glad.
man, I got a book ready. Here, buy it.
Right,
I don't see any
exactly.
problem with that. I mean, here's a book, guys. Enjoy. I plan on publishing a bunch of stuff in September. I keep saying that, but this year I'm gonna freaking do it. I just worried about all the nuts and bolts that go along with it. I just don't want to do that
Yeah,
whole marketing thing. It's just really uncomfortable.
it's there's a few things that help me with it. The first is like a bit of a bit of an how do I put
Well, yeah,
this?
I think you told me actually you decompartmentalize it. You say this is a completely different person selling this person called Garrett Robinson, right?
Right. So that helps. Another thing is just realizing, and this is going to be different for people based on where they're, some people have like self-confidence issues or anxiety issues, but in general, if you think that somebody out there is going to enjoy your book, right? That they would enjoy their book if it was in their hands and they were reading it, then your job as a marketer is just to find those people and get it in front of them and realize that like you're going to run into people who aren't going to like your book. And when that happens, don't try to hard sell them. Don't try that is when it starts to get into like skeeziness for me. Marketing is at its best when you're like, hey, who would like my book? And you really like identify the type of reader who would really like what you're doing, and then be like, okay, where do I find those people, and what sort of thing could I put in front of them that would make them realize that I have created a thing that I think they would enjoy. And
But you know
as
what I
long as
like about you? The thing I really, really like about you is I watch your YouTube stuff. When you put a video out, on occasion, when you do it at the right time, where I'm sitting in front of my computer, I will 100% watch it. And you're really authentic, and you never, ever, ever sell anything to me in these videos. So as you're sitting here telling me looking for opportunities to sell people your product, you're just selling me you and
yeah,
your genuineness and your affability. You know what I mean? You never
well,
one time,
thanks.
I don't remember one time you said, hey, I got a novel out, buy my novel, or I've got something planned. I don't think I remember you saying anything like that ever one time.
Yeah, I mean, I do always have a couple of videos around a book release. Like, actually, I published a new book last Friday, not my book, but a book by one of our other Underrealm authors. And so I actually have this sort of tradition going back from my first Underrealm novels, where I always start the video by collapsing onto my couch or onto my bed and just going, hello, Rebel, and welcome back to my life. I've finished the book and I'm exhausted. And then I just do a whole vlog, like collapsed on my bed and talking about the book. And then I'm like, okay, it's out. Go
But
buy the book.
you say hello rebel, right?
Yeah,
Hello rebel. Yeah.
yeah.
I
That's what
like
I
it.
call my
It's
YouTube viewers.
consistent. You
Yeah.
I I'm one of your rebels, my friend.
Hey.
Do you I mean, I don't know, I can't bring myself to do that either. Are you I mean, what do you do on other market platforms, Twitter and Facebook? Anything specific, or is it just the YouTube that you basically have been able to do that with?
No, YouTube, honestly, I mean, like you said, I really don't view YouTube as an advertising platform. YouTube is more community for me. It's where so the reason I started doing YouTube in the first place is writing is a very lonely process. And even if you're fast, and I am fast, I write books pretty quickly, but even if
Mm,
you're fast, you're still looking at months of work with no feedback. And I'm a very extroverted person. I like spending time with other
Yeah.
people. I like talking with other people. And that is very difficult, not getting that feedback and not getting that reciprocal communication. So YouTube is a way that I can sit down, make a video, edit it, and publish it all in like an hour and a half. And then immediately I'm getting comments from people who are like, hey, here are my
That's
thoughts on
nice.
your thoughts. And I like that.
Yeah.
And you know, like careful viewers, if anybody cares enough to do this, and some people have, and I really appreciate it, they'll, when a new book comes out, they'll go back and they'll rewatch all the videos that I made while I was writing the book. And they're like, oh, I can see how your headspace here
Mhm.
translated into this part of the book. Because it is that ability to be like, here's a thing that I'm thinking about that is somewhat related to my book. Let me just talk it out a little bit and hear from you. And what do you think? And it sort of expands my thoughts and viewpoints on what I'm writing.
I
Um,
see.
but in terms of actual advertising and marketing, there's an advertising platform on Facebook and there's an advertising platform on Amazon, and I just
Yeah.
use both of those. But it is an intricate and tricky business. Right now,
I don't like it, right? I
I
mean, do you honestly,
now
what about first time author comes out with a book and wants to put an ad on Amazon or Facebook? Do you think it's actually worth it to do that for that person?
I mean,
Do you
listen, it depends so much. It depends on your genre. It depends on your general skill level when it comes to learning new things. You should definitely educate yourself on it first because it's a good way to waste money. But,
yeah, I imagine. Well, how do you
you know,
recommend educating yourself? Do you have
well,
a particular book that you went to kind of open it up, or did you go to school? Because I mean, we're talking about SEO, right? We're talking about that nuts and bolts thing that I think is magic,
a
like
little
flossing.
A little bit, actually. So for me, I had no formal, meaning like, you know, school or college education in this.
Mhm.
And I was, I always sort of like evangelize Mark Dawson because Mark Dawson is an indie author himself, and he has created this ads for authors. Is that me in the background? No.
I don't know. It could be me actually.
Yeah. Hold on. Sorry. Smoke alarm is going off, which probably means that somebody tried to cook something. Let me just double check that everything's
Sure,
fine.
go do that.
All right. Ah, never mind. Alarm's off, which means my wife has already seen to it. So I always, I'll pick up where I was talking. I always evangelize Mark Dawson. He's an indie author himself. He created this course called Ads for Authors, where he came on the scene. I first found out about him in 2015, and he was like, "Hey, we all are on Facebook. We all see Facebook advertisements. We're independent authors and we need ways to market our business." Well, I have cracked Facebook ads for authors and it works best for independent authors. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, okay, so I've got my course over here, but I've also got a free mini course that I'm releasing that just teaches you how to do Facebook ads to add people to your email list. Because of course, like an email list is one of the most important. Oh my God. Okay, hold on one sec. I'll be right
Sure.
back. One sec while I get my headphones on here. All right. So
What were they cooking?
uh my wife really likes hash browns, and so she got these new like Pop-Tart sized and shaped hash browns. And she was like, oh man, I've been craving hash browns and now I can just pop these in the toaster. Well, our toaster didn't like those hash browns, it seems. So that's fun.
All right. Well, there's a toaster ruined.
No, the hash brown is, and she's not going to try to cook another one while I'm on the podcast interview. We always joke that my wife has like the most amazing timing because she does these things where you can't fault it whatsoever, but the exact time she did it is just like she didn't try to do it an hour ago and she didn't try to do it an hour from now. She tried to do it in the middle of the podcast interview, and And who can blame her, except that, then the smoke alarm goes off and it makes everything interesting.
I've been married for 8 years, man. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a magnetic force that happens between
Totally.
married people that unfortunately does nothing but result in annoyance.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't.
Every time I go out for like more than an hour or whatever, but I have a time that I'm gonna be coming home or whatnot, I can predict reliably, just ultra reliably, that Megan will call me and be like, "Hey, just wanted to find out if you're coming home or almost home." And she always calls me when I'm at the exact same spot 3 blocks away from the house. I've
Man,
just pulled onto the street and my phone starts to ring and I'm like, there it is. Every time.
you need to turn on location sharing.
I have it on. I'm like, you just check my location.
Just
and
check
she's
the
like,
maps
oh,
then.
it's easier for me to just call you. And I'm like, whoa.
Oh, dude, that's the best. I mean, I follow my wife home on the subway.
Oh, like, that's really cute.
Okay, she's at the Calb. Okay,
Yep.
she's at. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. I hate when it's not working though. That's awful. It's like, sweetheart, why is the app not working? Where are you? I'm at work. Are you really? Technology, man. That was the thing when this whole situation started kicking off. You really started to think about how prepared you were to provide for your family. They said a gallon of water a day per person. And I started going, how many people are here for? Gallons per day. How the hell do I get 4 gallons of water per day into this house?
Yeah.
How is that humanly possible if I have to go to a store? If like for some reason the sink just stops producing clean water, I get 4 gallons of water into this house. I mean, I live in this city. I don't know what happened to it. I think it's very anti-human now. You know what I mean? It's not a place where you can go and expect it to be easy.
Right.
It's a place that your feet are going to be wet when you go home. If you wear flip-flops, forget about it. Your bottoms of your feet are black.
Right.
When I told you about outside my window, but at night or in the early morning when I go out for a jog and if there's trash on the street, I see 100 rats, within a block. It's like you really start to question your sanity. Why am I here?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm done with cities for a long time, personally.
What's your situation like? Do you live out in the woods?
No, we're in a pretty small town. I think the population is like 20,000 or something, but it feels smaller than that. We actually used to live in a smaller town outside. We live in a town called McMinnville, which is like right in the middle of Oregon wine country. And we used to live in a town 10 minutes away from McMinnville called Lafayette. And the whole land area of Lafayette is less than a square mile. It was 0.97 square miles. It was tiny.
Nice.
And that was pretty great. We only moved into McMinnville to be a little bit close. Basically, anytime we left the house, when we lived in Lafayette, we were going to McMinnville. We were always going to the slightly bigger town to eat, to see friends, to whatever. So we were like, why don't we cut down on some driving time and move in here? And we do like it. But I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I lived there my whole life for the first 30 years of my life. And it was cool. It was fine. Once I started having kids, I was like, no, I can't have the craziness of Los Angeles multiplying with the craziness of having 3 kids. They don't add together, they multiply. And so I don't know, like maybe one day I'll feel like, because I do need a certain level of craziness in my life, but an acceptable amount. So maybe one day a city will seem appealing to me again, but I can't see it.
I ate the best Malaysian curry 2 nights ago. It was like $11. The guy brought it to my door. I was just thinking about why I live here, and I think that's one of the reasons.
I will say that's one thing that I miss. I mean, okay, so this is one thing I miss in Oregon in general. Growing up in Los Angeles, you have the best, and I will.
Oh yeah, right. Washington too, for that matter.
Well, I specifically because there's a lot of good food around here, but in Los Angeles, you have access to the best Mexican food in America. The best. No question.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue that. I'm so disappointed. New York City cannot do Mexican food to save its life.
No.
There was a
and
place in the Bronx that I went to that did an adequate job, but they would mess it up every once in a while where it tasted like you're eating wet dog. I don't
oh
know why. I don't know why Mexican food does that. If you don't do it right, it tastes like wet dog. If you do it right, it tastes amazing. But so many restaurants serve their wet dog food, and it's the worst. The
yeah,
worst.
up here we
Because
got
I
really
want it so bad.
yeah, up here we have really good like bar and grill or what do you call it? Like brew house, you know, sort of like grill pub type stuff. You can get real good sushi, you can get, you know, perfectly good Chinese food and everything like that, but Mexican food I'm always a little disappointed.
Can you still with the Chinese food, or are they struggling?
You know, I'm not the hugest Chinese food fan. I know that the restaurant my wife likes to go the most often, they're closed down right now.
Uh,
We've been doing a thing like once a week where we all go out for takeout. We call everybody gets to pick their own favorite place. We call all of them, we place a takeout order and we go by. And, you know, last week, Megan wanted to pick up takeout from the Chinese food place and found out that they're actually closed down as long as all this is going on. So that kind of stinks.
yeah, it seems like a lot of restaurants made that decision.
Yeah.
There's a to-go delivery atmosphere happening, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
A lot of restaurants just close.
You have to have an infrastructure for that, frankly.
I
Um,
guess, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. It's like amazing how many illegal immigrants actually do the grunt work around here, though, too.
oh yeah. I mean,
So that's the thing. What do they call it? Is it phantom workers or something along those lines?
something like
Where
that.
there's a whole segment of the population that could potentially disappear and you would never know about it because they don't exist anyway.
Right. But
I
you
think
would feel the effects of it because all of a sudden so many things
restaurants
just
start closing
stop
down.
working. Right. Exactly.
There's no Chinese food.
Yeah.
There's like several restaurants like that around me that you would think would be like, hell yeah, I'm going to do some delivery because that's what they do anyway. But
Right.
they're closed.
Yeah.
Why are you guys closed? I know
Yeah.
you're hardworking. There's like, that's the reputation. I mean,
Well,
I've
you
seen
got to
you
think.
do it.
I mean, you got to think. You know, all of a sudden, you know, okay, so it's harder to get driver's licenses in general. Okay, but let's say you already have driver's licenses and you've already been doing deliveries. What if you're now one of the only cars on the road and you're driving around while having a non-white skin color? How much
Yeah.
more likely are you to get stopped and investigated by a cop or, you know, ICE or something like that? Like, that's another thing. You know, the whole virus is vastly disproportionately affecting, you know, communities that are already marginalized, that are
Socially,
already
economically deprived. Yeah.
exactly. It's just it sucks. It's it's the worst of all possible worlds. It really blows.
The world is going to be different. I think the tragedy is going to be immense, though.
Yeah, it
But
is.
again, I think it's going to be immense for
Yeah,
people that we do not give one shit about anyway, normally.
right.
You know what I mean? These people out here that are eating their bagged breakfast, lunch, and dinner have
Yeah.
been there for decades. I mean, we talked about this in the 80s. I don't know about the 70s, but we definitely talked about this in the 80s, the homeless crisis.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been going on 40 goddamn years.
Yeah.
And they're gonna die, and we're not gonna have a homeless problem anymore. I mean, that's basically what I'm thinking about here.
Yeah.
They're gonna go away that way. They're gonna be extinct.
Yeah.
And it's going to be horribly painful for them.
Yeah. And for everyone, you know, who is they're all directly related to someone. It's not just some anonymous person on the street, which would be bad enough. Like we're talking about people's family members, friends, you know, whole communities. It's just see, this is
It's
why I
people
don't.
that are going to starve too, right? Can you? I was just thinking about the cliche of a cornered animal,
Yeah.
you know, snarling teeth. I mean, I walked by this guy today walking my dog. He wanted change. He wanted a quarter.
Yeah.
I had
This is
nothing
why I
on me.
don't.
I just walking my dog. I said no to him, but he was angry. He was
Yeah.
mad. You know, he did his little rum, rum, rum behind me. What
Yeah.
if he decides one day to do his rum, rum, rum with a knife or some shit? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just,
Honestly, stuff like this is why I have never liked writing overly dark stories. I don't like dystopia. I don't like post-apocalyptic, and I'm not. It's always hard to talk about this without sounding really judgy to people who do like them. I recognize that people like them, and I recognize that people like writing them, and I do understand why, but when things are going better, not necessarily great, but better. And people are just sitting there going, but what if it was so much worse? What if everything sucked and everybody was awful and sucked? And it's like, once things really start going bad, nobody likes that anymore. Like when things do take a turn for the worse, when a global emergency is happening, or when, people in power are being even worse than normal to people who they can afford to be awful to, nobody wants to hear, but what if we were all divided into districts and there were like
Yeah.
games where we all were forced to kill each other by the rich and powerful. It's like, no, how about we imagine things being better? And of course there's always that give and take, that balancing seesaw back and forth, where when things are kind of crappy, people want to sort of delve into what if things were worse. But like, I would rather be the guy when things suck, who is saying, hey, but what if things were better? What about that idea? Could we get on that? Is there anyone?
Well, that's because you write the hero's journey. You have a guy that does that. That says, you know what, king asshole, I'm going to stand up to you and your mighty army, and I'm going to tear you down. I mean, in actuality, you have a dystopia anyway, I imagine. I unfortunately have not read one single one of your books, even though it's on my wish list.
Oh, man.
I know, it's there.
I'm ending this call right now. I'm kidding.
It's so hard. I have so many. I don't make excuses. I need to read your book. I really do, because obviously Amazon loves them.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. I recognize that immediately about your work, is that you're very, very appreciated.
For sure. I love the reviews. I love that Amazon sees fit in its almighty algorithm to push me to people continuously. But going to that subject of dystopia, I actually don't. I really don't.
Who's your bad guys?
My bad guys are people who are. I actually really like what Tolkien did, and I feel like a lot of fantasy has strayed away from this, where Tolkien was like, no, I'm going to give you a world that's awesome, that you love, that it's not perfect. The Shire is not perfect, and neither is Rohan or Bree or Gondor, but it's so good. And things are right and just and honorable as much as they can be, again, not perfect, but a world that you still love and you want to see preserved and successful. And then I'm going to have people come along and be like, cool, we're going to wreck all of this. And the heroes are the people who are like, no, I'm going to protect this. Like the whole overthrowing the king thing, I get the appeal of that, and don't get me wrong, I've loved a lot of great stories like that as well. Like I'm the biggest Star Wars fanboy there is, and that whole premise starts off with there's an evil empire and the downtrodden people are going to rise up and overthrow it. Boy, what a great story. But I love I'm leaving home, I'm leaving safety to protect the Shire for everybody else.
And all I want in the world is to go back to that home and be there. And
I love that.
You as the reader, you want them to have that too, because it's such a magnificent world for that to exist in. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But they're heroes. I mean, they stand up and they say, I'll take the ring.
Right.
I'll do whatever it takes to win the day, or whatever situation you're presenting. I mean, that's where the shining light comes from.
That's my favorite thing.
The hero.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
The journey hero.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard to get away from the subject of the coronavirus.
I know.
COVID-19 causer.
It's in it pervades everything. It's in every thought. It's in every conversation.
Right. It's the present that we live in right now. But I'm just so curious where we're going to end up later on as bookmakers.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you as an actual bookmaker, me as a wannabe, but still at the same time, we have an opportunity. And I wonder if it is an opportunity or not. Everybody else is struggling.
Yeah.
Right. And making content is dead. If you are an actual corporate entity and you have to follow the rules, and you can't have one person in a room doing something,
right?
You have to pay 20 or 50 people to make a production.
Right.
You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So everything is stopped. The money, where does that go? Actually, that's interesting. You would know this.
Yeah.
So now 2 months ago, everything stopped, right? Or a
Yeah.
month ago, 2 months
Hmm.
from now, maybe it'll start back up again. There's a lot of money in production.
Yeah.
Now, how will they be able to start back? Can they start back up from where they left off, or what?
It
Tell me
depends.
what you like. Tell me your vision for the future in terms of content creation
Well,
on the
so
corporate scale.
so there's been one sort of uh dark dark darkly hopeful thing happening in the indie author community. I'm not as tuned into traditional publishing, but we're doing fine. Sales are actually up.
Up, I heard, right?
You know,
Like a
everybody's stuck at
third of
home.
every. Is
Yeah.
it what? 33% of everything purchased off Amazon's indie now. Is that the number, or is it better?
I actually haven't been keeping track of that, honestly.
Uh,
I've never been too invested in the indie versus traditional divide. I'm actually, as a total side note, pursuing a traditional deal for a totally different series right now, which is a whole another can of
good for
worms and
you. Good
conversation.
for. I mean,
Yeah.
good for
It's
your
go
readers, actually. Good for everybody that likes your work.
Well,
Excellent.
what's funny is that it's actually for something, it's actually for a middle grade series. So I'm sure that a lot of my readers will still be able to appreciate, but I just don't know that it's going to appeal to them. Did you ever read Animorphs back in the day?
I know of Animorphs. I did not read them or watch it. Seems like it would be something I'd have to watch too, right? As a cartoon?
No, they made a really bad TV show out of it, but
Oh,
really the
okay.
books are the only awesome part. And I was obsessed with Animorphs. I was in the bookstore every week to see if a new one had come out because they put out a new one every month, and it was they were like 150-page books, probably like between 20,000 or 15 and 20,000 words each, and very really good story, but definitely written for a younger audience, like just in that gap between middle grade and young adult. And I think she published like 50, 60 books. So over the course of like 6 years, I was just completely obsessed. And
Uh,
uh so take that as a series and imagine if that had been put out by somebody like John Scalzi. You know, John Scalzi's got his audience. He's writing sci-fi for adults. It's not like overly adult, but it's definitely for a grown-up audience. And then all of a sudden he puts out this side thing and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm publishing this middle grade series called Animorphs." A lot of his readers would be like, "Well, that's cool. Let me know when you put out the next book that's written for me." So this is probably going
that's
to be a
actually
little bit.
John's. That's actually John Scalzi. Anyway, he's so
That's true.
eclectic with the shit that he puts out.
That's
It's
true.
like he has. I think he's actually doing a series now, which falls in line with what you just said. But may God, thinking about his library, he's all over the place with his stories. I love
Yeah,
him.
he
I love
wasn't the
that guy.
best example. He was just the first person that came to mind.
Yeah, I totally understand. Like Terry Goodkind is even a better one because man, that guy
Yeah,
can't write anything but that Wizard's First Rule thing
there you go.
series.
Yeah, exactly. And even when he says he's done, he comes back,
Comes
and then
back.
and then he shits on his cover designer, and everybody gets a little upset.
Well, he had one horrible ass cover. It was pretty bad. The one that followed the end of the series. I
Yeah,
like that series actually.
yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
and not to interrupt
so
you.
no, well, I mean, I got off track 4 times before we started. So indie authors, what does it look like afterwards? I think that it would be.
Got no overhead. I mean, I'm looking at
That's a
publishing.
great side. That's a great side of things.
You don't have to keep an
For
office
sure.
complex. You don't have to
Right.
keep like all these things that you set up. I mean, I think about what I have on my debit cards, the monthly deals.
Yeah.
I mean, to put that on a level of a Penguin or something.
Right.
AMC is closing
Yeah.
potentially. Well, they're going bankrupt,
Right.
which I don't think necessarily means they're closing doors. They might go under something bankrupt, which I don't know. I'm not an accountant.
Yeah. And it's happened, what do you call it? All the movie studios, they can't release anything.
Yeah.
Onward came out the week that everybody started shutting everything down. And so they pulled it and they put it on Disney Plus. And by the way, we all watched it here at home and it's amazing. It's
Did you like it?
so good. But it will never have box office numbers to prove that. Like the odds of us getting an Onward 2 unless Disney and Pixar are willing to fund to greenlight a sequel based on a new metric, there's no reason for them to greenlight it, because I can't see it making its money back. I can't ever see that happening. Um,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter how good it is, how much I love it, and how much I want to see a sequel. Everything's shut down. We're not getting new movies. We are still getting books, which is cool, because again, digital
Temporarily.
distribution, and yeah,
Temporary.
well,
When does that dry up? It takes like a year. I mean,
you
you're in
know,
the process of doing something traditional. Maybe you know the way things work. I mean, it's like I've actually talked to somebody who said, "Hey, I got a deal with a publisher," and they're like, "Cool, dude, what's happening?" And then 3 years later, their book trickles out.
yeah.
So I mean, maybe that could save them. Maybe they
There,
have projects that they can hit
so
send right now or whatever.
I'm by no means an authority on this, or even like a very knowledgeable insider into traditional publishing, but my agent is.
Mhm.
She's fan flippintastic and just like one of the greatest joys to work with I've ever experienced. And she messaged me. The series was actually written with my best friend, and so she messaged us. She emailed us a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, "Hey guys, I need some new material from you to go take and bring out to publishers and to editors, and I need you to get it to me really fast, because all of New York publishing is currently locked in their homes, in their apartments and their condos, and they are desperate for new stuff. They have nothing to do. They want new material. So I
Oh
need to get
shit.
your series in front of them right now. So please get me these things right now." And we were like, "Yes, ma'am." And we just got right on it. And she's like, "Cool. Here's all the people that we're taking it out to." And like I can't. It's one of those things where like you can't get into details, but we were looking at the list of publishers and names at those publishers that she was going to be sending it out to, like, at this point, like a week ago now. And we were just like, holy shit. Okay, good, good,
It's
cool, cool.
interesting. And
So
they
we'll
all
see
want
how it
middle grade
goes.
stuff. That's
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
yeah. And so we'll see, we again, nobody knows exactly how it's going to play out, or what is, what's gonna come out the other side of it. And I think that anybody who's trying to make too strong of a prediction is doing it so that they to get attention again, to a little bit capitalize off of it. Or they probably genuinely believe what they're saying too, but I think that it is unprecedented, and so I think that it's really hard to predict how things are going to go. But I am personally very grateful to be doing what I'm doing, because I'm very not dependent on the workaday world continuing to function in order to sustain myself. And I'm also very grateful that my wife works for a company that is amazing and is taking
Yeah.
really good care of its people, and is making sure that everyone, one, has their work and is doing their jobs and is getting paid for it, but two, they just actually really care. Like they're a very big company in terms of what they do, but they're a very intimate company in terms of like their actual size. I think it's like a couple hundred people or whatever. And even at that level, you can have, bosses and you could have bosses and CEOs who are a little bit distant and sort of not really. But boy, the CEO and everybody on his team are just, they're really taking care of people, and they're constantly reaching out and being like, "Hey, how you doing?" And if the person is like, "Oh, it's fine," they're like, "No, no, no, come on, nobody's fine. How are you doing?" Let's, like, they care. They want to see what they can do to help people as much as possible. But that is such a lucky position for her, and by extension for our family, to be in, that
Yeah.
so many people don't have, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. People are being really shit on.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked those jobs before, waiting tables and things that aren't being allowed to have doors open to anymore because of social distancing.
Right.
And I've gone paycheck to paycheck and been like, oh God, I need to work this shift and I need exactly $120 or I'm completely screwed and starving
Right.
for the next 2 weeks. If
And
that
that's
had,
so many people.
they're starving out there. They're in
Yeah.
line for this kitchen every morning, food pantries.
Yeah.
It's a scary world. I mean, that's again, we talk about the how do you have 4 gallons of water for your kids?
Right.
To have a
Yeah.
life is expensive. And that's
Yeah.
why we used to die so young, because it was too expensive to actually live.
Yeah.
We couldn't actually do it right. I mean, what they say about Lovecraft, that dude wrote his fiction and wrote a can of beans a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like crazy.
People just cannot afford to live and they die.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's fascinating. I have a completed novella that is a Desert Storm homosexual story type thing.
Uh-huh.
It's completely unmarketable, but
You'd be surprised if, I mean, okay, I'll put it this way. If it's a romance story that just
oh,
it sets that as the background.
it's not. I use
Okay.
homosexuality as a thing because in '91, if you were gay, you're just not. I was
Yeah.
going to be crass, but you weren't in a good situation, and somebody
Yeah.
found out. You were backed up against the wall. I mean, you couldn't fight the accusations. You were just screwed.
Right.
So now basically put some characters into that, and I was a private, so I really find that the most interesting part of war anyway.
So it's more of
Having
like
no
a
choice.
drama. It's more of like a drama type of story.
Yeah, it's a slice of moment
Yeah.
in Desert Storm.
Yeah, I mean, so there's still definitely a passionate audience out there for it. Most of everything that I write has some variety of non heteronormative relationship, but rarely as like as the focal point. It's more of just like there's a romance subplot with the main character that's just happening in addition to everything else. And that is the appeal to a lot of people. A lot of people find my work just because of that. They are also fantasy fans, but they're like, holy crap, this is like Tolkien, but like, hey, your main character's in love with another woman, or like, holy crap, this feels like a more adult version of Harry Potter, but these two guys are into each other or whatever. But I feel like that might work better in some genres than others because, military thriller, it might be a harder sell.
I try not to make, I don't think the character's decision matters as much as how they wrestle with it, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've done I've done stupid things, and then you wonder afterward, why did I do that? I feel like that's where most drama actually lies is,
right.
What is it? What's the stupid story? The Russian guy. It's famous. I'm not going to say his name because I'll butcher it and embarrass myself. I'm probably already doing that by avoiding it.
I'm not sure.
He stole the loaf of bread.
Oh, stole the loaf of bread. Wait, Russian guy. Are you talking about Les Miserables?
No, that's French.
Yeah, I was going to say. That's the first thing I thought of with the stolen loaf of bread, though.
He stole the loaf of bread, and I think he ends up killing somebody, defending himself. And the story is about him wrestling with the drama of the actual action itself, which happens within the first couple chapters.
Right. Yeah, I'm not familiar, but it sounds. I don't know off the top of my head.
Man, my mouth does not want to work. Unfortunately, I have throat problems, so some words just don't want to come out, and I feel it. This is going to be one of those. It's not a fun Russian one. It's one of those horrible 6-syllable ones. Anyway, dude, what do you think we should know going forward? Do you have any advice for people?
First of all, is I guess just
get a towel.
Honestly, I'm seeing a lot of productivity porn come out of this.
Yeah, I've heard that term recently too.
Like there's this meme going around. No, there's this meme going around that like, Shakespeare wrote King Lear while on quarantine from the Black Plague or whatever. So I'm expecting great things out of you while all this is going on. No,
but that's disingenuous though, because King Lear is written in. A lot of people wrote King Lear while it was being staged. It wasn't just Shakespeare. He was like, it's not a novel, dude. It's not a poem. It's an actual theater. I'm so irritated.
And also,
so dumb.
Shakespeare had servants. Shakespeare had people to take care of the day-to-day acts of living for him. That's a thing with Dickens too that always annoys me. Not about Dickens. I love Dickens, but people are like, well, Dickens wrote 10,000 or 5,000 publishable words every week, so you should do the same thing. And I'm like, dude, Dickens had a literal team of servants. He had people who took care of his kids who weren't his wife. He had people who cooked for him. He had people who did his laundry. He had people, yeah, all these things. And sure, if you're already a person who can afford all those things and you want that sort of life, then great. But no, that's not. You can't use Dickens and Shakespeare as your metric. You can use their work as something aspirational or something that inspires you. Sure, absolutely. But don't be like, well, if I'm not reaching Shakespeare levels or Dickens levels, then I'm a failure. Like, no, you're in the middle of the biggest global crisis in living memory.
And
It's
living
okay.
memory,
Yeah.
generational memory. I mean, I'm talking great grandparents situation
Right.
here.
Exactly.
And great grandparents. That's when the last it happened. I don't think it happened since. I mean, Ebola, yeah. If you live in third world countries or really awful places, it's happened there. Maybe. I guarantee you didn't social distance.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guarantee you just basically died and nobody did anything or cared as long as it didn't leave that country.
Yeah.
But this time it did.
And again, the trade-off of that huge global interconnectivity is we can't unplug from it. We can't just ignore it. We are all too connected to not be aware that it's happening. So, first piece of advice, it's fine if you are trying to create right now and you can't. That's not your fault. Don't hate yourself or feel like you're a failure because of it. This is not proof that you're not meant to do this. This is you being a human being experiencing a level of trauma that human beings have difficulty dealing with and processing. And the second piece of advice, which sounds completely, not completely contradictory, but is do as much as you can. If you use your work as an escape, if you can. I know that when I'm plugged in and I'm writing, even whether I'm writing a first draft or editing or doing the first outlining process and laying everything out for myself, I'm not thinking about shit. I mean, it's actually jarring and annoying when things from the outside world come in at that point, which makes things challenging when my family's home. But that's what I have to deal with right now. But if you can just, if you're living with other people and you can just talk to them and be like, whether it's your spouse or family or just roommates or whatever, and be like, hey, I need to go. I'm going to go plug into my work for an hour and I'm going to turn on music and I'm going to have my headphones on, or I'm going to, put on white noise or however it is you work. And if I can just have an hour where absolutely nobody comes and talks to me, that would be really great. And do as much as you can. Use what's going on as fuel if you can, as much as you can. I started to talk about this way earlier, but since we've started socially isolating, my work hours have actually gone up. I'm putting more time in the chair than I was beforehand partially because I am kind of locking myself in my office and being like, okay, everybody leave me alone. Nobody talk to me. As opposed to walking around my house or going out. I'm not going to the gym, so that's more time that I'm spending in the chair. But my production hours are up, my productivity is down because it's hard. I'm able to sit in the chair more, but those hours are less productive because there's a lot going on and it's hard to get myself in the right headspace. So be okay with that, but also do as much as you can. Start to realize that we're in a position and where things are a little more dangerous now and a little more scary, and take that as a note that nothing is guaranteed.
No.
If you've wanted your whole life to write that novel,
do it now. You might not have an opportunity tomorrow.
Right. I mean, everybody's wake-up call is going to look different. Mine was when my wife got pregnant.
It might not even be that you die, right? I mean, you might not die and you might live to whatever the hell age. I mean, you might be completely healthy,
right?
But the opportunity to write is gone completely and you're not able to do it anymore for whatever reasons. I mean, I look at what my grandparents had to do when they were kids. They lived through the Great Depression, 1929. My grandfather was 11 years old.
Yeah.
My grandmother was maybe a few years younger than him. They said my grandmother gave me stories. She lived in what is it? South Brooklyn, basically.
Yeah.
And she had to go neighbor to neighbor, get laundry, do the laundry in their bathtub, and deliver the laundry back to these people by the end of the day. She was doing laundry in her bathtub.
Yeah.
I mean, they were desperate. This is a little girl. This is my daughter, desperately needing to do labor so that we can live and have food.
Right.
And not only that, but they eventually worked their way up to owning a deli. But that's what they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
They washed laundry. They put those kids to work. But they were allowed to hit their kids then, man. I wonder if that makes a difference. We're not allowed to do that now. I can't see my daughter going, Dad, I'm going to go door to door and wash laundry. No, she's going to cry and complain, and I'm not going to be able to do anything about it. Man, my great-great-grandparents, they were like, no, go wash some clothes. So
yeah. And they were a very traumatized generation.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, man, my mom's generation too.
Yeah.
We think about how civilized these people were, but they were pretty brutal to their kids, the greatest generation. They were horrible to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even talk about what they brought back from the war, what happened in this country to people that remained behind.
Right.
I mean, there's like the quiet generation that exists right after them that, they're devious and sneaky like rats. And I mean, honestly, the history aren't even written yet.
Right. What a surprise that their kids turned into the hippie drug generation. You know what I mean? Like,
and also this generation has nothing, that everything got stolen from them too by corporate. Hey, you want to do my job with the machine? Go ahead. I just want to sit here. I'm done. I don't care. Cause I got abused as a kid, like you would not believe. And all my job went to China when I was 40 years old. I wondered in 2008. I mean, this is only 12 years ago, but those people lost their homes. A lot of people lost their homes. Where'd they go? Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Then it goes, Jim Bob Smith lost his house. Where's Jim Bob Smith living? He's a bankruptcy now.
Yeah.
They didn't forgive him for that loan. They made it impossible for him to find an apartment. They made it impossible for him to get a job. They made it impossible for that 40-year-old man with a family to recover from wanting the American dream.
And now people are complaining because young people won't move out of the house. Like, of course not. We're still living with an entire societal trauma of people who lost everything and had nowhere to go and had no opportunities and nothing. Of course, people don't want to move out of their house. They're afraid that what happened 10 years ago, really, really recently, is just going to happen all over again. Like, come on.
It's happening now. We never recovered from it. Yeah. I mean, the really interesting thing to me is when you look at World War I and you kind of see the end. It didn't really end then. It kind of just continued to happen. Yeah. And, the people in Germany, they suffered like you would not believe.
Right.
They had to pay back what they did to all those other countries. And you know what? No, we're going to take it all back again. And it was only 20 years. That's it. That's as long ago 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
9/11 fundamentally changed this country. And now we have a man fleecing. I don't know what your politics are.
Oh, no. You know, what's funny is in preparation for this, I went back and I re-listened to our last interview, and I made a pretty brutal joke about Trump. And you were like, and I was like, shit, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And you were like, no. Really, really glad you did, actually.
I'm impressed a little bit. Bit. I'm impressed at the way he can handle a press conference.
Oh,
I watched yesterday's live as it was happening, and I find it interesting. This doctor who's got crowned a national hero two administrations ago stood up to a reporter and said, "No, I'm not being forced to say this. No, I'm telling you the truth. Stop," and basically put a squash on anything where he could have made it worse. It doesn't matter if he has the job. He could have gotten fired. What does it matter to him? If it was really an issue, he could make it an issue. He could make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So, I mean, that to me makes me think that maybe this guy's a piece of shit on a lot of levels. But if you put me in front of a camera and I got grilled by a bunch of reporters, I'm not going to be as unflappable. You know what I mean? It's kind of amazing in a way.
I don't know that I see it the same way. I don't think I do. I don't know. I
I talked to Emma Hardcastle, actually. Do you remember Emma? You had the fortune talking to her about a couple of years ago. Yorkshirean, I don't know, English girl. But she loves Boris Johnson now because of
Oh, really?
I got in a little bit of trouble with her because I'm like, oh, I thought he was kind of the English fool. And she goes, no, he's done so much good for our country.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay. I have a whole Discord server full of Brits who would extremely strongly disagree with her, who are like, cool. We used to just get to watch this shit happen to America from across the country, and now it's happening here with our version of your guy. I mean, you're whenever you have somebody who's in a position of power who uses that power to increase their own power and who like kind of lords it as much as they're able to, you're always going to have people to whom that appeals. You're always going to have people who see somebody kind of going nuts with their ability to enact what they've always wanted to do. And it's a bit of wish fulfillment for them. Even if they've never been that way before, I
would say he's always been this way. This is not
no. I mean the people who are sort of like, no, you know what? Like, you know, like the person who says, oh, done so much good for our country. It's like, but really? Is that actually true?
Saying that.
Right. No, but I mean, your friend who was talking, your friend who was talking about, what's his face?
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, Boris Johnson. You know, has he actually, or has he just said that in such an emphatic way as a person of power that you're sort of like, you know what? I wish that I was also in a position like that. Because there's a lot of people who are revolutionaries until they realize that they might be the person who a revolution would happen against. And then they're like,
oh yeah.
No, you know what? Actually, the person in power, they're not so bad. They're not so bad, actually. And maybe we should just support them because they're in a position of power and we owe them that. And it's like, no, man, no, come on. Like you care about something or you don't. You can't just conveniently align yourself with whatever looks good to you personally right now. That's how I feel about it.
I think that's an apt way to look at the situation. I mean, Donald Trump. You know, the thing about his power right now is he was not an administrator that crawled his way up out of obscurity, a corporal in the ranks or whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you know, he snatched the leadership from the top guy and and now he's that's the classic coup type scenario.
Yeah.
It's a billionaire, you know, he came from that. That's who he was. This is who he's always been.
Yeah.
And his statement yesterday was, I'm the president. I'm powerful. You can't even imagine the amount of power that I have and what I can do with it. And I'll wield it whichever direction I want.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about that, yeah, that sounds scary as hell. It sounds awful. It sounds awful, but he did not make his power.
Right.
Vice President Cheney created that situation by unleashing something that was already there. Hey guys, look what we can do. Yeah. I'm going to make Halliburton rich as fucking hell.
Right.
And he did. He made Halliburton rich as fucking hell. He made himself rich as hell. And he made his buddies rich as hell. And then he went, adios, America, you stupid assholes. And he went and got his fake heart or whatever. Yeah. And then we had Obama, who couldn't do shit for 8 years. What a great guy. And then we had this piece of crap who says, hey, Dick Cheney's playbook was in this bottom drawer, guys.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it to it. And he's doing it to it. He's doing it to us every single day. But that's not him. He didn't do shit. He didn't make this up. He didn't have a team of lawyers go, hey guys, guess what we can do? No, it's already there.
Right.
This is what they did for 8 years while they went to war in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah. It's just, boy.
No, do we forget what he did? He lied to us about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Apparently people do forget. Because people
killed 1 million people in Iraq. He killed 1 million people. Why? Why did you do that? 1 million fucking people he killed. He killed my friends.
Yeah.
He took their eyes and their limbs. He took parts of their body and their minds. And he did that for what reason?
Yeah.
It wasn't weapons of mass destruction. It wasn't for fucking terrorist training camps or whatever.
Right.
It was for Halliburton to get billions and billions and billions of dollars or trillions of dollars. I don't even know.
Metric fuck ton of money, I believe, is the
fuck ton of money.
Is the scientific
Technical
term for
the
it.
scientific term. Perfect.
Yeah.
God,
When
like
scientists
sickening.
discuss this in their academic papers, that's what they refer to as a metric fuck ton.
And as the generation that's coming up, I guess we're of the same generation. We have to ask ourselves, how do we stop this? And if we can't stop it, then what do we do? Because becoming the rebel leader does not sound appealing to me.
No,
it doesn't sound appealing, because there are rebel leaders right now locked under that Colorado prison. They're just locked up underneath there. They thought they had a good idea. They put bombs in their shoes or whatever stupid shit idea they had to take down the government. And
right.
They tried to be the rebel leader for a minute, and they got ruined for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Not only just ruined, but they got put in like carbonite. They had to sit in a cell for the rest of their existence. I mean, that just makes me so freaked out to think about that.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to try.
I'm not a big fan of rebellion, which is funny because I call my YouTube viewers rebels. I realize the irony.
You wrote a book though, wasn't it? The first book was Rebel.
Not, it wasn't my first, but it was an early one. It was right before I started writing Underrealm. And yeah, so incrementalism sucks.
Well, incrementalism is all we have, right? In terms of history, we're only a little bit every generation, except for the last 100 years or so. All of a sudden, for some reason, we just exploded into this monster planet-eating species.
Right, and it's like, like incrementalism isn't good enough, and I'm like, okay, cool, but until there's a viable, better alternative, that's what let's keep doing that until we figure out something that, so I don't think we talked about this in the last talk, but the Bernie or bust people. I like Bernie a lot, big fan. He himself, right? And he's out now, and now he's endorsed Biden. And he did that, me personally, because he's like, cool, so I would much rather have had my policies. But since that's not happening, I would rather have slightly better policies than continue to make things worse for another 4 years. And you immediately have some people turning around and being like, well, he sold out the revolution. It's like, I mean, okay, anybody's interpretation of anything, that interpretation, I get it. But also, boy, I mean, I really do feel that he is a smart person who is doing what he believes to be best, and I happen to agree with him that I would rather make things a little better, just a little.
And that's all you can expect. We don't want revolution.
Right.
I want my lights to work. I want my street lights to work. I want my sidewalks to be elevated off the street so when it rains, I don't get muddy. Yes. I want my streets not to have potholes in them. I want my cops not to be corrupt because they're getting paid enough. Exactly. I want a national health service, though, too. Yes. I want to be able to do what I want with my life and not have to look back on 80 years of living in a hole digging coal out of the ground.
Right.
You know what I mean? Totally. I want my military to be used for beneficial means and not sent to other places to kill millions of people just because, God, I don't have a fucking answer why we killed millions of Iraqi people. I really don't have an answer. Saddam was a horrible piece of shit, but
yeah, and there is no good answer. There's no answer that's going. We have a psychological want for an answer that will erase the problem or make it better, and that's not going to exist. And the answer is, the answer is for people in power to gain more power, for people with money to make more money. And that's so deeply unsatisfying. It's not a good resolution to the story. It's not. If we saw that as an ending to a TV show, we would all collectively go, fuck that show. Don't watch that show.
It make you sad or anything.
Right.
But exactly. 10,000 people, that's what happened. That was the end of their TV show, is what they got to see in the last month. This was this is the credits for them. Hey, Bob, you got COVID-19. Your lunch is shutting down. Your family, they live in an apocalypse. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Bye,
that's,
Bob. Thanks for
and
playing.
and so that's why, incrementalism to me is an abstract analogy for going back to like Rome. The people who built Rome's incredible system of roads, most of the people who built the roads never got the benefit of the roads. They were doing something, a
Well, they got
small, you
the
know,
benefit of the roads when they went back to the camp at night, because the camp always incrementally went with the road. So like a
sure,
mile back, a mile back, they got to walk the road they just made to eat dinner, and then they get to
sure,
walk the road in the morning after they ate breakfast, and they never had to walk. Hey, think about it this way: they never had to walk on an unroaded road.
right.
They always walked on road
So they were building themselves a tiny advantage every day
every day. Yeah,
to create something that would give a massive advantage to
massive.
their entire society for generations.
God,
And
man, if you
then,
really think about the connection, I don't know, the road system in Rome had to have inspired the Germans, and the Germans inspired us. The
oh,
whole
yeah,
thing that we have here, this whole project, I mean, it never stops. It's
yeah,
always building itself. It's always repairing itself and making itself better.
right,
A national works like never seen before in history, and that's why we're so successful. That's why
right.
Germany was able to do what they were able to do in World War II. They have this infrastructure in place.
A massive infrastructure, which,
And massive.
and so to me, modern political incrementalism is that, because I want to jump a little bit back and push slightly against one thing that you said, which was that Obama couldn't, do anything in the 8 years despite being a nice guy. Well, I mean, he did do the ACA, which isn't the healthcare system we all want, but my family and I have healthcare only because of the ACA. We
Interesting.
we could not have it beforehand, and now we do. And that's the case for a lot of other people in America. Enough? No. Did it provide insurance for everybody? No. But that's why, that's one thing that I kind of bring up only in the right context and only to people who I know aren't going to, like, who I
Why
can
does that
have an
make me
actual discussion
sadder?
with.
That makes me sadder. It makes me so sad. Like you say that to me, and I'm so happy for you and your family. I really am, because I'm a vet. So
Yeah.
before I met my wife has a good job with insurance, so I got to milk that for a little bit. But I'm a vet, so I went to the VA, and the VA sucks. But anyway,
Yeah.
I got that socialized medicine for the longest time.
Yeah.
So I mean, you tell me that me and my family at one point did not have insurance, and we had to wait for the American
The Affordable Care Act.
the Affordable
Yeah.
Care Act to get insurance, and you're not the only people died.
Yeah. A lot of people died, and
For
a
some
lot of
reason, my
people
mind
die
goes
now.
right there. There's
Yeah.
no insurance, Bob. You got cancer. Have a nice day. That's his curtain call. I just like,
Right.
oh my God. And what makes, I told my wife when we first met, like, I'm a writer. She goes, oh, that's cool. And I said, not really, because I think about all these other people who went to Columbia and wherever, and they call themselves writers too. And I wonder if I actually deserve to put that title on myself.
Well, no, sorry, go ahead.
There was a point that I was making, and unfortunately I distracted myself by what was I saying before that? Let's not leave it there. Do you remember what I was saying?
You were saying you met your wife. You said you were a writer, and she said,
No,
that's
before
cool.
that. That's the part that distracted me. What was before?
Oh, got it. You being sad because you hear that somebody doesn't have health care, like Bob, hey, you have cancer and that's it. Like you're done. And that's true, and that's still true for people today, but it's true for less people. And so when people talk about, Biden, and it's like, do you really want an expansion of the ACA instead of single payer? I'm like, no, I don't want it instead of Bernie's healthcare plan, but we're not getting Bernie's plan by now. At this
Congress is too corrupt. It just doesn't pass. They tried. I mean, I know the Affordable Care Act was not what they wanted. I watched that happen. I'm an avid newsreader. I am very, very, very invested in history. So I'm watching this thing happen, just praying that it doesn't stop. And it did stop. It died.
Yeah.
He couldn't get anything going. He couldn't even get a Supreme Court nominee through Congress.
Right.
I mean, just so depressing to watch how disgustingly corrupt our country is.
Right.
That's why, you had to, I mean, that's why people are out there suffering without this.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, add the caveat of the medical system being corrupt too. You actually do have insurance, and you go to the doctor, and that doctor goes, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to send you to this other doctor." So you end up spending so much money anyway in copays and hours visited for what?
Yeah,
Life-threatening thing or some minor situation that they freak you out over. I broke my arm when I was in high school. I played football. I snapped it right in half. This is my sophomore year. Oof. I battled back. Yeah, it was hard. It was real bad. Nerve damage and everything. But I battled back, and I played 2 more years of the game or whatever. And there's a big knot of calcium in there, where the bone knitted together.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, they x-rayed it at NYU, and they said, "Oh, dude, I think you have cancer." They basically didn't say that over the message, but they said that over the message. So I called. I'm freaking out. "What do you mean I have cancer?" And I'm so stupid that my anatomy, when he said femur, I thought he meant my leg, or the other way around. And he said, "No, your arm." I said, "Oh, I broke my arm when I was 16. He goes, "Oh, okay. You're not dying of cancer after all. Have a good day." So, I mean, that cost me $20.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was some larger organization that could oversee, all of the healthcare stuff, and that it could have stronger negotiating power when dealing with people who provide things like medical supplies and drugs and everything like that? Yeah, that'd be great. But I also, if that's not happening because of the next presidential election, and it looks like it isn't, I'm fine with expanding the ACA so that more people can have what I have right now. That's okay. Like,
do you think Biden's got a chance?
I don't know. I'm not enough of a political junkie to feel like I have a strong opinion on that, but I'm sure going to be voting for him, and I really hope other people are too,
I can't decide. I'm still debating whether I'm going to do a third party or not. I hope this is an exciting third party candidate, but I doubt that'll be the case.
Yeah, I don't.
I hear the Green Party's putting out somebody interesting on the Social Democratic Front. Can't remember his name. Maybe you remember it. I don't remember it. But that kind of interests me, because if enough people vote for a third party candidate, they get to actually say stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's cool. I like that. I don't like how silent this 2-party majority system is. It just sucks.
I agree. And, so a lot of people are like, if you vote third party, that's a vote for Trump. I don't agree. I do not agree with that at all.
I don't know. Maybe we deserve Trump for 4 more years. He's such a dipshit. Most Americans seem to be dipshits too.
I hear you, but I feel like that is more nihilistic than I can bring myself to be. I feel like there are so many Americans who don't deserve it. And also, when we talk about the amount of people who voted for Trump, we're discounting the 40% of people in Alabama who didn't. And that's just among voters. We're discounting the 55% of people in North Carolina and South Carolina who didn't, because the Electoral College also fucking sucks.
Yeah.
We're discounting the fact
we're getting raped, man. We're getting ripped off as people, and the thing that we were promised is not happening.
Yeah,
I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves here. I mean, the thing that's happening is not what we were promised. This is not a democracy.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell this is. I've heard the term before. Makes sense. An oligarchy or something of that nature.
Oligarchy,
the oligarchy, the rich are the beneficiaries of everything.
Exactly. The rich and powerful stay rich and powerful and decide everything for everybody else.
And if you want,
to a degree, that's true. But we have to remember how much effort gets put into voter suppression. And if the rich and powerful,
and he's right. The dude said it the other day. That's why he wins. That's why the Republicans win. That's what we've been saying for decades. That's why they're winning. They're keeping blacks away from the polls in Atlanta or Georgia or rural, whatever the hell.
But again, that's very nihilistic. And they wouldn't put with that viewpoint. It is very easy to say, well, then I shouldn't vote. And if you recognize that voter suppression is a problem, why would you let somebody suppress your vote without even making it impossible? Why would you let somebody
go to jail?
Your mindset?
You don't want to get hit in the face with something.
I'm talking about you and me.
Yeah, I don't want to get hit in the face with something. I don't want to go to jail. That's why I don't make a stink of it. That's why I don't show up to protest.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about it is very easy with the mindset of, well, voter suppression is going to make it impossible to win anyway, for enough people to stay home that the victory becomes possible. Like, so much effort goes into voter suppression that if we aren't being suppressed, if we are not the people being targeted by it, we got to get out and vote. We got to participate.
It's not our communities.
Exactly.
It's not our communities, because of the people that are being targeted. Their poll workers are coming from their communities, and they're coming from a community that doesn't have the education necessary to run a poll.
Exactly.
Potentially. I mean, there's so many micro things here. You know what I mean? There's
100%.
a situation of cooperation. I mean, I don't know if you've been in a situation before where somebody from a certain community thinks that the line that you're standing in starts 5 people up for some reason. There's a lot of problems. There's illiteracy issues, there's education issues. I don't understand what's happening with this ballot. What's your name? You have 17 names. Which one should I use? Nobody has ID at all, for some reason, because they don't trust the government. If they show up and they have warrants, they think they're going to go to jail, or they owe for child support, or daddy got arrested. I mean, that was scary.
But let's not get so wrapped up in this and so hopeless about this that we aren't doing what we can do. You know what I mean?
That's the problem, is we've so enmeshed in this horribleness that I wonder how we'll be able to find the solution to it. Because when you look at Mitch McConnell, you have to wonder yourself, what the fuck is wrong with people in Kentucky? This guy is elected, but it's not that people are voting for him. It's that the numbers make him electable. They jerry-rigged the whole freaking thing so that he's the only one that gets the votes in those places that need to vote for him.
Right. And so we fix that.
You can do. It's always going to be him.
No. That's what I want to push back against.
That's very nihilistic. That's
what I'm saying.
Obama is on the train to try and fix this 3 years ago, and nothing has changed. As far as
you're disappointed?
I am.
Come on. Like, what? You want an overnight fix? That's what I'm saying. Don't ever say. No, I
don't know yet.
Don't ever say what can be done about it. Don't ever say, don't ever say we can't do it. You know?
Like, what would you say? Like, looking at, okay, so we're looking at an election in November, and we just had one last year. They're 2 years. Let's just say November to November, 2 years from November's. Since 2018, do you think that there was enough of a change to make you think that they did something? Was there something that went, oh, look at that Republican dirtbag is no longer there? They still have 51-49, right? Or is it 52-48?
I think it's 51-49, or it's one of those two.
It's going to teeter as soon as they lose it. I don't know what's going to happen. When was the last time the Democrats have controlled the House and the Senate?
Both. That would have been during Obama's first term. What? No. Hold on. Sorry, that's wrong.
I don't think so. I think he had Republicans then too. I think they still had this thing going on.
Yeah, hold on. Last time Democrats controlled.
I'm going to say Clinton's first term.
2009 to 2011. Alongside the country's first African-American president, Democrat Barack Obama. Obama's first term.
He should have tried. Did he try for the Affordable Care Act then?
I believe he did, yes. And what's funny is that he got pushback from Democrats at that time.
Worse.
You know? But that's the thing. Like, you can't say, well, it hasn't happened yet, so it's not going to happen, so I'm going to give up.
But you know what's messed up?
That's the only thing that makes it not happen. What?
The thing that shouldn't have happened, that we didn't want to happen, that everybody whispered about and made movies about, happened. There was a pandemic that shut down the entire world, that shut down my city. This shouldn't have been shut down. They shut down New York City. There's nothing going on up there. You can walk through Times Square and there's only homeless people and rats there. There's nobody that can go to the hospital that can't afford food and pay $20 to get a test.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're sick, how often do you go to the doctor if you don't have insurance? You just wait it out, don't you? I'm really sick today.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm dying before. I've never actually died. I don't know if there's a point where I go, okay, this is too much.
But I feel like, see, again, I don't know that this is helpful. Like, I don't know that. I
hope it's not it, though. Right?
I don't know that line of conversation is helpful.
I think it should have to add it into the conversation because, like you said, in incrementalism, you don't want to lose We didn't lose as many people as we feared. Potentially, it's not over with yet, but we did lose our economy. We are going to enter something brand new at the end of the day. When they do open the economy up, it's not going to be the same. You
Right.
know, those publishers or whatever, they're going to lose the work they put into something. People
But
are
see, this is
dead.
what dude, this is what I'm saying. Every time we start talking about it, we're bringing it right back to the negative. We're bringing it right back to what's gone wrong. We're bringing it right back to how hopeless it is.
I think you misunderstand though, because I think at the end of the day, this has to bring upon social change, or the same thing's going to happen and it might break it completely. Then I think we'll rebound.
Yeah.
I think they're able to do stuff now. I think we're going to have things return to normal. This is not the end.
Sure.
You know, America.
But what are we going to improve? What are we going to improve? How are we going to make this better in the future?
We're not going to make it better by shutting down the United States Postal Service. We're not going to make it better by locking people up on the borders and not engaging in Mexico with the cartel, because if we don't engage in Mexico with the cartel, there's no point in having it.
So
there's no point. I mean, that is the worst thing that's happening anywhere near us. We shouldn't be in Afghanistan or Iraq or the Sudan. We should be in Mexico fixing that country, because it's poisoning our country.
Right. So that and so then we get to, how do we accomplish that? And it's not by giving up on voting. It's not by giving up on it or thinking that it's hopeless, because people work so hard to convince us that voting is useless, to convince us that it's a foregone conclusion and that voter suppression is so strong.
They're just making it so hard for people to vote. They're just making it so difficult for people to do it. Like, I know voting is important. I vote every election, and I would recommend that everybody take that opportunity, because why the hell not? You get a sticker. Yeah. And that's the coolest thing ever. It's the only thing as an adult I do get a sticker for. That in itself is the only reason I do it. No, that and
well, you see a huge number of people who are like, well, voter suppression is so bad, and then they stay home, and then the election doesn't go the way they wanted it to, and then they say, see, voter suppression. And it's like, no, man, you didn't go out there.
Really, I have a really difficult time understanding them. I don't know why that's a thing.
Well, it's because of propaganda. There is no other word for it. It's because of political activism and messaging that discourages people, or that makes them feel like if they can't get the perfect golden unicorn of a political candidate, then they shouldn't participate at all.
I suffer from that though too. I really do. I'm so disappointed that Bernie's not our guy.
Yeah, me too.
So
100%
disappointed. And I appreciate what Biden's doing. I really worry about his cognitive state. I do too. That's the only thing I really just can't get behind right now. I'd love to see the guy not be an 78-year-old man for a minute.
Sure.
But he just doesn't seem to be able to not pull off geriatric.
Right.
Bernie was old too. I mean, don't get me wrong. He didn't have too many cognitive issues, but man, the guy had a heart attack and he was even older.
Yeah.
So I looked at him and I just said, buddy, please, I just want you to go lay down and have a nap. I don't want you to be president. I really don't. Yeah. I appreciated his politics, but man, I just didn't see him being strong enough to do it. I was actually relieved that he bowed out just because of how sick it seemed like he was.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Terribly. I mean, yeah, I love the fact that we're going to have some change. I like incrementalism. I'm so happy I reached out to you, man. A 90-minute phone conversation. This is really great. I worry
with only like 5 minutes for smoke alarms, like ruining the background.
Pull that out. Nobody will know about it. No, or that we'll talk about hash browns in the toaster. Yeah. And I've been wrestling in the back of my mind with the idea of hash browns in the toaster, and I just wonder why would you use a frying pan? Is that a better idea than the toaster? But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I didn't put the hash brown in the toaster.
I have a wife too. I understand. I understand. They can't help it. They're the creatures that they are. All right, man. Do you have anything that you want to talk about before I let you go? Again, appreciate you hanging out with me as long as you did.
Yeah,
Really
no,
cool.
totally. Yeah, so people can always go check everything out at underrealm.net. That's where all of our stuff gets published, and any new stuff that we have is going to be there, and it's a good place to find where you want to start. Last Friday, as we're recording this, on the 10th of April, we released our first book by our first full novel by another author, writing in the world of Underrealm. It's called A Cloak of Red. It's by Brenna Gawain. It's just really good. It's awesome. I've read it, so much through the developmental and editing process, and I really love it. So I think people should definitely go check that out. The second book is coming as soon as we can get it out there. And then if people want a fiction podcast, I started one last year called the Nightblade Epic Podcast, and you can actually just listen to audio presentation of my book series for free. It's slower than reading it for yourself, but if you want to go check out Underrealm and listen to it for free, go check it out, the Nightblade Epic Podcast.
That's the advertisement I needed, man. I'll definitely just start downloading episodes immediately.
Thanks
Cool.
so much. It was really good to talk to you.
Yeah, definitely. You have a great night or
You
afternoon.
too.
Bye. Oh, morning.